12 persons. Best choir in Cumberland County. Always has been. Lena asked me about preaching this day, and she said she preaches from lectionary. And so I do too, and I looked at lectionary readings for today, and I saw Nehemiah. And it really fits what I've been carrying within myself for several months, especially during this election year. I really don't understand why good church folk can breed such fear and thoughtlessness. Good church folk. And when you heard Nehemiah read, did you get a picture of the worship service? It was a great visual affirmation of people being intelligent and genuine and thoughtful. When Ezra read the word, they really got into it. They had just returned from being exiled, captive in Babylon, and now they were back and they finally had their chance for real worship after many generations. Well, I get all kinds of emails with forwarded messages about hate and bigotry and prejudice, and I used to just delete them, but now I respond to them. And I forwarded one the other day to a minister in Cookeville to have her, who is an expert on Middle Eastern and Islamic studies, look at this hateful message I got and give me her response. And last night I got her response, and here it is. It just never ceases to amaze me how people, especially those who call themselves Christians, can be so ignorant to just believe whatever anyone says about Muslims. And that's all it is, ignorance. This morning from Nehemiah, I want to tell you about fear and about thoughtlessness. And I want to close by telling you about thoughtfulness. Not fear or thoughtlessness, but about thoughtfulness. Fear and thoughtlessness are reasons good church folk for making lightning rod, loose cannon statements. And we hear a lot of those from good church folk. Good church folk. I play golf with a guy, a good church folk, and he said, as we're getting ready to tee off for 18 holes, he says, they are trying to take God out of everything. And before I could say to him, what does that mean? Another guy said, they are trying to do everything they can to keep us from practicing the Christian faith. And then I said, who is doing that? One of them said, we don't need to worry about it because Trump says he's going to protect the Christians. The other guy said, Skipworth, you liberal preachers don't understand anything. The county school board here in Tennessee voted to place the Ten Commandments in each of their schools in that district. There were several newspaper reporters there at this board meeting. And one of them asked a parent, a mother who was at that board meeting. And he said, what do you think about this decision? And she said, it's great. Now we will have religion back in the schools. If I was there as a reporter, I would ask some more questions. Who took religion out of the schools. And when did this happen? How did they do it? Placing the Ten Commandments is going to bring religion back into schools. Where will those 10 commandments be placed in the school? In the trophy case outside the office? Kindergartners and fourth graders walking down the hallway after recess and stopping at the ritual to read the 10 commandments? Leaving your brain at the door breeds fear and thoughtlessness. Fear and thoughtlessness result when things become complex and confusing. As the evangelical, fundamentalist, conservative, biblical scholar, Christian leader Donald Trump said, we don't know what the hell is going on. Christianity in 2016 is not the same Christianity that I learned at the Carmi EB Church in Carmi, Illinois. Caucasians are no longer dominant or in control anymore. We have a black president. Atheists in Akron, Ohio are filing suit to get rid of In God We Trust on our money. Women are running for president of the United States. My daughter, who is 52 years old, has been a nurse for 35 years. She's 5 feet, 2 inches tall, and now she's a licensed 18-wheel truck driver. What is happening to our country? Thank God we're putting the 10 Commandments in those schools in Tennessee. Putting fear in people comes easy. Putting fear in people comes easy. Let me tell you about fear. I went skydiving for the first time on my 77th birthday. I told Dareth I was going to play golf in Sparta. I went to the Tullahoma Skydiving Club for the lessons and the jump. After the instructions, we walked to the plane. As we approached the plane, the engine was running and the propellers going around. That was the first stage of fear. The second stage was climbing up into the sky and noticing clouds out the window below me. The third stage of fear was finding out that I was going to jump at 16,000 feet. The fourth stage of fear was when I asked the instructor, what if we get up there, I get to the door, and I say no? He said, in 15 years of instruction, he's had 3 men tell him no. He said, I thought they said go, so I pushed them out the window. The fifth stage of fear was when he told me we will jump for 10,000 feet at 140 miles an hour. The sixth stage of fear was when I said, why don't I have a helmet? And he said, why do you want a helmet? I said, what if the chute doesn't open? And he said, Mr. Skipworth, if your chute doesn't open at 140 miles an hour, you'll need more than a helmet. I want to tell you about fear. I've been preaching for 54 years. I started my first year in seminary at the Osceola Evangelical United Brethren Church in Osceola, Ohio. This Sunday is the first time I preached before ministers, missionaries, theologians, biblical scholars, academicians, educators, conference officials. You would think I would be intimidated, but not since I jumped out of a plane. Now, the text from Nehemiah takes place after the people return from being captive. They were a defeated people. They had been beaten down. They needed to have a sense of security and absoluteness about their identity. They were a people who were very fearful and uncertain of the future until Ezra pulled out the law and he read the law. Ezra brought the law before the assembly, both men and women, and all who could hear with understanding. Now, it says early morning till mid-noon. That takes some commitment for a congregation to tune in. And it says all who could hear with understanding, meaning kids were there. All ages. From about 7 o'clock in the morning till about noon. Ezra's reading the law. The ears of all the people were attentive to the book of the law. When he opened it, all the people stood up. He blessed the people, and the people answered, Amen, lifting up their hands. Then they bowed their heads and worshiped the Lord with their faces to the ground. Finally, they got to worship. Finally, they were free of fear. They were home. They had missed this experience for generations. Now, they gathered it all in. Genuinely. Good church folk really getting into it. They never left their brains at the door. When people leave their brains at the door, they make a lot of thoughtless, loose cannon comments. Let me tell you about thoughtlessness. Rick Santorum says that our economy will not, now this is a devout Catholic. Our economy will not improve until all our children have straight parents. Michelle Bachman, a good Lutheran, says that having laws that protect gays is tyranny. Mike Huckabee says that gay Christians will destroy the church. Good church folk need to think. We don't need thoughtless, lightning rod, loose cannon rhetoric. Let me tell you about thoughtlessness. During my senior year in high school at Carmi, Illinois, I tried out for the senior class play. I was handsome, talented, everybody liked me. I was a leader in the school, most likely to succeed, trying out for the lead. No problem. The day after we tried out, Miss Stanley, the English teacher and the one in charge of drama in the school, had the cast on a piece of paper outside her door on the bulletin board. So we all gathered around to see who made the play. My name wasn't there. So I was shocked. And I'm walking away down the hall, and Miss Stanley comes behind me. and she taps me on the shoulder and she says, "Gene, I'm very sorry you didn't make the cast." She said, "Let me give you some advice. Don't ever choose a profession where you have to do public speaking." Let me tell you about thoughtlessness. Still a senior in high school at Carmi, Illinois, in chemistry class, toward the middle of May, and Mr. Elmo Purdy, the teacher, is passing out our final grade report. He's got them stacked in his arm. And he goes around the room to each individual desk. And he goes to Susan Lee, and he says, "Susan, you did a wonderful job on the test. You will do wonderfully at the University of Illinois." And he goes to Stan Williams and says, "Stan, you did a great job on your test. You'll do great at Millikan University." He comes to Roy Miller, and he says, "Roy, you'll do an excellent job, and you'll do a good job at Millikan University also." He goes to Goob Sexton and hands him paper and says, "Goob, you'll do a great job at Indiana because you did a great job on the test." He comes to my desk. He puts the paper down and he says, "Gene, you won't last 6 weeks at Illinois." Ezra read the text, and the Levites, the priests, and scholars mingled among the people to make sure they understood what was being read. The text tells us what took place. The Levites told the people, "This day is holy to the Lord your God. Do not mourn or weep." For the people wept when they heard the word. They were so in tune to it, so sensitive to it. It was so meaningful to them. Ezra said to them, "Go your way, eat the fat and drink sweet wine. Do not be grieved, for the joy of the Lord is your strength." These people were authentic, genuine. They were no longer conditioned by fear or thoughtlessness. It was the first time in generations they had heard the word. It was a rich experience for them. It renewed them, gave them new life. They never left their brains at the door. Let me tell you about thoughtfulness. Ezra said to them, with your celebration, eat the fat and drink sweet wine, and send portions of them to those whom nothing is prepared. He's perpetuating the Hebrew scriptures of giving, of really giving. It's the mandate of the Old Testament that compassion should go to the weakest, the least protected, and disadvantaged members of society. There's a new wave of fear and thoughtlessness called Islamophobia. Now, most dictionaries don't have it. At least my dictionaries don't have that word in them. States have denied entrance of Syrian refugees. Ohio is one. But many churches in Ohio are accepting Syrian refugees. And other states are too. States that have a policy of denial. It's fantastic. Thoughtfulness. They must have read Nehemiah. The Apostle Paul defines the mark of a true Christian as one who extends hospitality to strangers. The author of Ephesians says, don't exclude people because they aren't the way you want them to be. Don't let your preconceived notions be the guiding principle of how you relate to others. One more comment about guys I play golf with. I have learned how to play golf when these guys are in my forces. I try my best to shut them out. Now, lately, I have egged them on. For instance, the one guy I'm playing with belongs to a conservative church in Fairfield Glade. He knows from whence I come. I know from whence he comes. So, I asked him just out, do you have women ministers? He said, no. I said, do you have women deacons? He said, no. I knew that. So I say, you must take the Bible literally. He said, yes, we do. That's why we don't have women ministers, women deacons. That's just what I wanted to hear. So I said, we have women running for president of the United States. If one is elected, she couldn't be a deacon in your church? He said, no. Don't leave your brain at the door. The text from Nehemiah today affirms for us the courage and triumph of a people in face of tremendous challenges. There was no fear or thoughtlessness. The text today speaks of their joy and hope, love and compassion as they heard the word. They became people who were empowered, made new, recreated, because they did not leave their brain at the door. Amen.